everyone sees something different. And so it is important to not give them your narrative until they ask for it. What do they see? Oh, I love this bison skull. It reminds me when I went on this big hiking trip with my father in Wyoming when I was 10 years old.
Think of the people you interact with every day. Would you want to spend a day in a canoe with them? Hi, I'm Nathan Mercero, CEO of Planning Alternatives. We're a disruptive brand in the financial planning space with a point of view that true wealth has nothing to do with money. Growing up in a small town in Canada, I experienced examples of families with money and without. It started me on this journey of understanding wealth and the idea that spending a day in a canoe with someone could be one of the best investments you could make. Join me as I sit down with leaders, entrepreneurs, creatives, rule breakers, and friends to discover their perspective of true wealth. And maybe you'll start to shift yours. So I'm delighted today to be joined by Ellie Thompson. And Ellie, welcome to Day in a Canoe. Looking forward to our metaphorical journey in the canoe today. We were just talking about your daughter and just some of the things that you're working on to coach her with business. You have a business. Would you tell listeners about what you focus on and maybe some of the learnings that you've had in that business building journey?
I started out in New Haven, Connecticut as a teenage shop girl. And from there, I worked in a jewelry store and then later became a gemologist and threw a dart at a map and moved from California, where I was going to school, to Chicago. And a few years later, opened my own business as a gemologist and appraiser of fine jewelry. And then started dabbling in designing jewelry and randomly started entering competitions for design and won a few and decided that was where I wanted to put my focus. When I was about 28, I started Ellie Thompson Co. and sold my first business, the Chicago Gem Lab, and have really been having a good time ever since, making jewelry and solving people's problems.
Now, we were just discussing the challenge and the benefits, but the balance between running a business and being a creative, like how have you navigated that space?
I found that the creativity resides inside me. So I can be on the train or on a plane or on the yoga mat in the morning, and the creative ideas are there. They spring forth whenever they want to. And if I pay attention, I can remember them later. And the running the business, your banking, fortunately now we could do it many times of the day. But I do run a shop, a retail store in Chicago, and people like it to be open. So I'm there typically 11 to 6, about 4 days a week, and then spend the rest of my time doing production, making sure the orders that we took and the collections that I'm making are getting finished and ready for market.
What advice would you give to that artist who says, I know I've got something that's going to be meaningful and impactful, it's my passion, but they need to maybe scale or think more broadly about the business aspect? How do you turn that corner? Do you outsource that? Do you find a mentor? What would be your advice?
I think there are a lot of things that are important. One, just writing a business plan. And even before you write your business plan, write the plan of what you want your life to look like and be very intentional about that. What do you want your life to look like for the next year? What do you want it to look like in 5 years and 10 years? What do you want your daily life to look like? What time do you want to get up in the morning? What do you want to do in the morning? How do you want your day to unfold? And write it all down. And then see how your ideas fit into that. Some people want to make a lot of money and their lifestyle desires are very high. If you want to do that as a starting watercolor artist, it might be challenging. So how can you balance your dreams of being a painter with making the money that you need to make in order to have that house that's really important to you or the vacation lifestyle that's really important to you? I think designing your life is the most important first step. Then you write your business plan and show your business plan to 6 people and see how you can get good advice and listen to the advice And again, go back to your personal plan of what do you want your life to look like? And go from there. But go for it.
That's great inspiration. So life by design, it sounds like what you just mapped out, it's almost like you're writing a book about yourself and the future that you want to see and have intention behind it. You have a book, and what's the content that you focused on in your book?
My book this is my first book, and so it was a memoir. So it's really the story of, I constrained it very tightly to why I make the jewelry look the way it does. And if the story I was writing in the book was to the service of that idea, that story stayed in the book. If it wasn't, if it was a tangential idea, I will save it for another book. So it was really the story of starting in New Haven and going to California and coming to Chicago and going through a series of inspirations that created the collections that I did. So my work early on is very urban, and then it becomes more and more natural and even very Western in motif as I traveled and as I explored other ideas in my life, things that I want to do, like mountain biking and hiking and traveling.
As you went through that memoir, what were some of the aha moments or reflections that stood out for you that maybe you had forgot about, or it just had better recognition through the process of putting the book together?
The serendipity of the path itself, that there were 4 pivotal moments that I discovered. Literally, when the book was done, I went back and oh, there was the 4 pivotal moments. And they involved people that I met. One was the very first was just working in a jewelry store. I was working at an art supply store in New Haven on Chapel Street and selling pencils to the members of the Caesar Pelli architecture firm and putting price stickers on pencils and putting those pencils in a can. And as we did that task, my partner in crime, Phil Lichtenstein, said to me, "Well, I think you should go across the street and sell jewelry. I bet Derek Simpson could use a classy lady like you to sell his jewelry." I'm like, huh, okay. So the next day I walked across the street and said, "I hear you're looking for someone to sell jewelry here." And he looked at me with my leggings and my big shirt and my big plastic earrings. And we talked for a little while, and his wife called me that night and said, "I hear you spoke with Derek today, and he's quite impressed with you. I'd like to meet you. Will you come tomorrow to the shop and please dress the part?" So that was a pivotal moment. And then another one with someone out in school who told me to go to Chicago. And then again on an airplane, I was coming out to Oregon to mountain bike about 12 years ago now. And I'm sitting on a plane going into Salt Lake City thinking, wow, I got 25-minute layover. I usually run, and we're running 25 minutes late. Wonder if I'm going to make that changeover this time. Commiserating with the guy next to me. His name's Jeremiah Johnson. I kid you not. And he looked at my big belt buckle I was wearing, and he said, "You should go to Western Art Week." I go, "What's that?" "Oh, up in Great Falls." "Oh, really?" "Yeah. I think my friend Chuck Fulcher would really like to see you." I'm like, "Really? Who's he? Give me his number." So I sent an email to Chuck Fulcher. He said, "Oh, yeah, you're in. We want you in our show." So I showed my belt buckles up in Great Falls, and that changed my entire paradigm to really traveling and selling my work out west. And that changed the way the work looked as well.
Those are cool moments. Is there any formula between or connection between building the business plan and the serendipity? Does one happen with each other? Are they absent each other? Or is it both and?
I think it's the attitude of openness that allows the serendipity to take hold.
And what do you mean by that?
That you're open to listening to what people say around you. And when they're reflecting back, just go, huh, that's interesting. Tell me more. And really thinking about and being open to what people are observing in you. They see things you don't see. So I think being willing to look at the mirrors they hold up is important. Keeping a very nimble lifestyle and business plan allows you to pivot to go follow things like that when they show up. I think that's important too. And a lot of people don't have that nimbleness. And the nimbleness is about being low to the ground, lower cost of living, lower. So you could say, oh, yeah, I could go do that. I can go run around the West for a couple of months. Maybe I'll do that for 10 months and come back to Chicago and check in with clients. But if you really have a lot of structure and maybe not the support you need to do that, it becomes harder to stay nimble. And the nimbleness is where the opportunities, I believe, are found.
That's great insight. In our world of financial planning, we help people design various scenarios for their future. But if people are encumbered by high debt loads or just even a lifestyle that they're enamored with, that will be a limiting factor in what their options are. In the whole area of creativity, there's like this aspect of creative wealth, like you're creating something that is really contributing and a value. What is your definition or perspective on that creative wealth side?
It sounds like it's very much aligned with when you think about purpose in life, but it's a little more accessible to think about it that way. I think that's interesting. The quality of the day, your ability to be helpful to others, and not being encumbered by too much. Some people are, it's like playing to your strengths. If you're really good at organizing large groups of people and you can go and do major projects around the world that change people's lives in a rather immediate way, that's very valuable. But there's also a great deal of value in how you go about your day and how you interact with each person. And early in my career, I did struggle with the idea of how can selling luxury goods be a right livelihood? How does that align with my purpose and how I want to do well in the world? And I realized that what you put on your body is very personal and it affects how you feel and it communicates something to people who look at you. So I had a lot of conversations with clients. They said, oh, I have a big presentation and I'm going to wear these earrings today. And I know that I will do really well because I feel so good in these. And it's really important that you made these for me. Oh, that's interesting. And the other, even smaller things in the other parts of my life that aren't about fixing sentimental jewelry or designing something powerful, is just who you meet on the beach when you're walking the dog. Do you have time to listen to them? They have something they need to work through or talk about. Can you be there for them? And that may change their day, and you don't know what else they're working on and who they're going to interact with. So the rippling out in a positive way every day with people, interacting with the environment, and interacting with ideas, I believe is my purpose. So the creativity flows through all of that.
That's a great perspective on creative wealth. When you see people have curiosity about your creation, your jewelry, and all these amazing things that you're presenting, what do you see in their eyes, or what do you see? What are they drawn to that you can observe as they're in that process of exploring?
Everyone sees something different. And so it is important to not give them your narrative until they ask for it. What do they see? Oh, I love this bison skull. It reminds me when I went on this big hiking trip with my father in Wyoming when I was 10 years old. That bison skull means something to them that I never conceived of, but it is why they made a connection and why they want to have it. And that's important. I also see how color affects people. They'll see different things in colors. Like I use a lot of colored gemstones in particularly earrings and rings and unusual combinations. And some things will really resonate with people because of color, and colors about their own, again, personal memories, and even their own creativity and aspiration can be held in color. So I always like to see how people react to the colors I put together.
What happens in an auction environment as you see groups of people having this experience at the same time?
Auctions vary. Different kinds of auctions have different personalities involved. When you're dealing with a local auctioneer of household goods, personal property, art, jewelry, those types of auctions You have pros that are going in and they want to buy, and they're going to clean it up, change it, do something to it, move it to a different location in the world and resell it. And that's how they're making their life. And they're curating their own collections that way, whether it's art, jewelry, rugs, furniture. So there's a competitive, and then there's a market. And it's very much really like the real estate market. It's worth this. It has a comparable, and the commission's going to be added to it. And it's very carefully calculated. And then you have a couple of people who just really like that painting, and they're going to bid on it, and they don't care about that guy because they don't have to make money on it. It's perfect. They love it. They have a personal connection with it, and their paddle will stay up longer than anyone else's. Then they get the painting. It's great. Charity auctions are different because there's often very much a desire to publicly show your support for the charity by bidding or even overbidding for an item, because things have value. People know what things are worth. But that public display at a charity auction can be very powerful. And that's something that an organization should really work hard to try to foster and inspire in their audience on any given auction night. Auctions are very interesting.
Final question. What are you looking forward to?
Today, we have a wonderful speaker series up at the Western Design Conference, so I'm excited about that. I have some new work that I always enjoy doing and just traveling. I have some really wonderful bike rides planned for the next week. Then I'll be here in Jackson. Then going into the holiday season, and there's in my shop in Roscoe Village in Chicago has lots of community activities. So there'll be pumpkins and there'll be holiday parties and lots of family time. That's really fun to be part of.
I want to thank you for stopping by today. I love your life by design mindset. The work that you create is so beautiful. And I wish you all the best for what's ahead and what you're looking forward to.
Thank you kindly for having me here today. It's been a delight to talk with you.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review. To discover what wealth means to you, please take our assessment at planningalt.com.